I'm Josie Thompson, and my first NDE was back in 1991 when I was 24 years old. I had never heard of an NDE. Not many people had had cancer at that time either. And here I was, a 24-year-old, super fit, super healthy, with stage 3 malignant cancer. So I had 2 NDEs in succession, and they were exactly the same. I heard the voice of a male who commanded that it wasn't my time yet. So I was floating up on the ceiling, aware that I was here, but I could also see my physical body unconscious in the hospital bed, and I was commanded back into my body. And then essentially I got on with my life and didn't even know how to talk about that. So brushed it aside and just got along with my world. Then 19 years later, I was having my next major surgery. It was a cranial surgery where they had to cut open my head and remove a thing in there, which I don't talk about anymore. And in the lead up to that, the voice returned to give me a message about what was going to happen in 2 days' time. And that was the day of my surgery. And I had not told many people about the fact that I was having this surgery because it was major. Spiritually, I was quite weak. Mentally, I was frightened. And physically, I was very neutral. I was didn't care what was going to happen. Whatever was going to happen was going to be for the best, and my trust was there. However, this voice came back to me 2 days before surgery and essentially said, you have a choice to make in 2 days' time, and you have to decide whether you return to my choir or whether you start your work in earnest. And I didn't even know what that really meant, but I opened my eyes on the other side of that surgery. I didn't have an NDE after that surgery. However, in 2023, I was being treated for a significant chronic neurological disorder, which was a consequence of that surgery that I'd had that many years earlier, because it had resulted in scar tissue growing in my brain and leaning on nerves. So it would affect the whole right side of my body. So I was admitted into hospital and had a supervised treatment series of ketamine. The first time I had it, it was extremely successful and I was pain-free for 6 months. So naturally, second time, they said, let's do another round, you'll be fine, it'll be just like the last time. So I didn't have any trepidation about it at all. However, second time round was, during COVID, the protocols in the hospitals were very different. The supervision of the ketamine was not as rigid, and my complaints about the effect of the ketamine on my body was being ignored, and it resulted in me going into toxic shock. I lost consciousness and essentially flatlined. When that happened, I experienced my next NDE, and this one was quite vivid. What happened was I had full awareness that my physical body was unconscious. But I was very awake and aware in this other realm where I was able to observe the body, but at the same time, I could also observe this bright white torus light coming into the room from the top right-hand corner of the hospital room. And at the same time, I was aware of this beautiful golden grid rising up and out of my body. And I was observing this in a very neutral fashion. And then all of a sudden, a thought arose and I said, wait, am I dying here?
On this channel, we explore what happens when life hangs in the balance. But what about the mornings we're lucky enough to wake up to? That's where Morning Kick by Roundhouse Provisions comes in. If you've ever felt foggy, drained, or out of sync, it's more than just fatigue. It's your body asking for realignment. And just like the stories we share here, it starts by paying attention to the small but powerful choices, like how you begin your morning. Morning Kick is a daily drink crafted with a clean blend of superfoods, probiotics, collagen, and stress-balancing herbs. It's designed to support digestion, boost energy, and enhance mental clarity, all without the crash, allowing you to fully show up for the life you've been given. The face behind this formula is none other than Chuck Norris himself. In his 80s, Chuck continues to embody vitality, energy, and resilience, and Morning Kick plays a crucial role in his daily routine and longevity. If you're ready to start your mornings with purpose and strength, visit chuckdefense.com/side and save up to 44%. That's chuckdefense.com/side. Take care of your body while you're still on this side.
I didn't get a response, but what I did say is I haven't said goodbye yet. So an aspect of my awareness was able to literally leave that hospital room in Brisbane, Australia, to go interstate to Melbourne to find my father in the garden. And I said goodbye to him. So obviously it was kind of like my higher self speaking to his higher self and having that completion or closure with him, saying goodbye. I then made my way to the kitchen and found my mother and said goodbye to my mother. I found my brother driving his car. I said goodbye to him. I found my sister in her house. I said goodbye to her. These were all people interstate. And then I found my 2 children who were also in the same state, some distance away. And I was able to say goodbye to my 2 children. And then my awareness was fully present back into this totally awake state in the hospital room while my body was completely unconscious. And I then declared, okay, I'm ready now. And then all of a sudden, this other voice arose from nowhere and was so assertive. It was feminine, but it was very strong and assertive, and said, no, it's not you that decides when you leave, it is me. And it went on to say, you've me, you've abused me, you've exhausted me, you've pushed me, you've ignored me. And it just gave me this total rant about how I had treated this entity. And as I was listening, I realized that that voice was actually the voice of my body. And I had not heard it so explicitly clear before. I'd heard in life previously, you should rest today. And it was more of a sense than an auditory sound. This was like an auditory sound that was coming in loud and clear. And I could feel the physical body, whilst it was unconscious, start to release tears from the eyes, because I could feel this tenderness and this shame and this remorse that every single thing this voice was saying was absolutely true, that I had taken this physical vessel for granted and I had not really cared for it the way it deserved to be cared for. And it was in that moment that I realized that I'd heard the words, being raised a Catholic, the house of God, and that your body's a temple, and all of this, but they were only words. I had not had an embodied knowing and understanding of what those words actually meant until that moment when I heard this voice rising out of the body and saying, it is I that decides when you tap out, not you. And I froze and then begged forgiveness. And I said, I'm so sorry. Please give me one more chance. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was not consciously caring for my body. I had taken it for granted all my life. And somehow I came back to consciousness several hours later with this profound new awareness of how close I came to leaving this dimension, with a profound new awareness and relationship and reverence to this physical vessel called the body, because I now realize just how incredibly important it is to maintain and sustain and nurture this vessel, because the vessel is how the spirit gets to express the essence of my soul in this lifetime. And if I'm not looking after the vessel dies. I mean, we're all going to shed this skin anyway, but I'm here for a purpose, and we all have a purpose to fulfill in this lifetime. And the way we do that is the expression of the spirit, which is the personality. And that's only made possible through the vessel that we're given. And if we're not caring for the vessel, then the rest of it doesn't get completed. So my relationship to my body has profoundly shifted from that whole experience, that last NDE, because I realized that the living body is an entity that needs profound care. And so self-care was something that was optional for me before. It was usually last on my to-do list, whereas now it's on my top of my to-be list. Because if I'm not vital and healthy and well and looking after myself, what version of myself am I offering the world and those people that I love and care about? And what am I modeling for others who I am actually connecting with? If we want to change what's going on in the world, it starts with each one of us. And that's one of the profound shifts I realized that if I want a healthier, more vital, more conscious world, it starts with me. And I've taken full responsibility for that now. And I consult my body every day. It's like having a conversation with another person. And I hear the voice tell me quite clearly what it needs, what it wants, what it does want to do, what it doesn't want to do. And oftentimes it contradicts what my brain would like me to do for the day, which is all about productivity and achievement. And the body sometimes says, yeah, no, that's not going to happen today. We're just going to chill, or we're going to read, or we're going to listen to an interview that I've wanted to listen to for a long time, or you're going to learn about sacred geometry because you enjoy it, and only because you enjoy it, not for any other reason. So there's a totally different experience of myself, of this body, and of life in general as a consequence of that last NDE. And if there's anything that I can say to anyone listening to this interview right now, is please consider the vital importance of fueling yourself in the best possible way. It starts with the way you think, the way you speak, not just to others, but the way you speak to yourself, because every single cell in your body is listening, and it creates a vibration or a frequency within the body, which then manifests in either well-being or not. So your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and ultimately your deeds all align to create a condition within which you create, and then you get to live out and manifest in your world. So if you're wanting to change your reality, it starts with the inner work of aligning your thoughts, your words, your heart, and your deeds.
If you like this story, be sure to support The Other Side NDE by checking out our brand new book below,